Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Maryland Rural Water Association and the Maryland Department of the Environment, I'd like to welcome you to today's Water Sampler Certification Training. My name is Donna Dunlap, and I'll be your host today. Before we get started, here's a few tips to help you get the most out of today's class. First, please be aware that all phone or mic lines have been muted and webcams blocked. You'll still be able to ask questions, and I'll show you how in just a minute. If you look at the bottom center of your screen, you'll see a toolbar like this one. Over to the far right is the chat button. Clicking on it will bring up the chat panel, which looks like this. Here is where you'll be typing in any questions you may have. Feel free to type your question in at any point during the presentation. The instructor will be pausing intermittently to check for questions and answer them. The chat panel is also where we'll be displaying links for you to click on toward the end of the class. Once for a video and once for the final test, so be sure you know where it is. And last but not least, please be aware that this class is being recorded. As it says here, a link to the recording will be made available within 48 hours. And with that, let's get started. It's my pleasure to now turn this over to our instructor, Scott Harmon. Scott?
Thank you, Donna, and good morning, folks. My name is Scott Harmon. I work for the Maryland Rural Water Association, and my title is EPA Training Specialist. Prior to coming to work for Maryland Rural Water, I worked for the Anne Arundel County Department of Public Works Water Operations Section, and I was in charge of a group of water treatment plants in the water distribution system there, and I worked there for 33 years, and then I retired. The reason I bring up my time with Anne Arundel County is because during that time, I was required to have this exact same certification. So I had to go through my initial certification process, and then I had to get it renewed several times during the course of my career. A little bit about the course. The course itself is going to take a few hours to complete. So please try to get as comfortable as you possibly can, and I'm going to try to make this as painless as possible for all of us. Some of those of you that have taken this course before will definitely notice some changes. So be sure to pay attention, and you probably even want to take some notes, since I'm going to be covering a lot of information in a relatively short period of time. And some of the drinking water terminology that I use may be new to some of you. And since there is a test at the end, as Donna said, if there's anything unclear to you during the course of my presentation, please use that chat function to get your questions asked. Now, if I get a bunch of questions coming in at the same time, I sometimes wait until a break before answering questions, but have no fear. If you ask a question, you put it in that chat box, I will give you a response to that question. So before we begin, just a few things about what went into making this class. So this is one of the documents that did. And what you see on your screen here is the EPA's Quick Guide to Drinking Water Sample Collection. And EPA has a really good website, has a lot of really good information involving sampling and testing, as well as water treatment and other subjects. And if you're interested in this type of thing, you can go on the EPA website and look at and get all the information you care to get. Also, helping to make this course, we use documents of the revised total coliform rule, and you can find information relative to the revised total coliform rule on the EPA website, but you can also find it on the MDE Water Supply Programs website. Now, what I have on the screen here is a copy of what's called a Consumer Confidence Report. Now, this one happens to be from the Washington Suburban Sanitation Commission, but the reason I'm showing you this, and by the way, this is a report that goes out to members of community water systems once per year. And the reason I'm showing you this is because information that's gathered through sample collection and testing is used to help create this report. So when you're out sampling, you're doing your paperwork in particular, it's very important that you're accurate, you write clearly and legibly on your paperwork, so the proper data can be recorded and put into reports such as this. If you're more interested in what goes into making Consumer Confidence Report, you can get that information on the MDE Water Supply Programs website. Here's a copy of another one. This one's from Frederick County. Now, I say this in every class. A lot of people, this comes out once a year. A lot of people get this report and they think it's junk mail and they toss it. Well, this is going to come out very shortly. If you haven't received it already, you will shortly. And if you get it this time, please take a look at it. It not only has information relative to testing and sampling, but it also has information about the water system that supplies your drinking water. So take a look at it. All right, so today I'm going to be covering sampling for the Safe Drinking Water Act, and I'm going to specifically cover compliance testing of public drinking water systems. Now, when I talk about the Safe Drinking Water Act, you may hear me refer to it by its acronym of SDWA. Now, I'll also talk a little bit about testing of private home well systems when I cover that in much lesser detail.